Not quite. Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I just want to acknowledge all the previous contributions made by the members on this side in regard to this bill. And of course, I rise to contribute to the incredible work done by Minister D'Ambrosio and her team on the Energy Legislation Amendment Energy Safety Bill 2023. And as I say, I acknowledge all the contributions that have already been made. It is a highly technical and complex bill that brings together several large pieces of existing legislation and brings it firmly into the 21st century. It's also a critical piece of legislation that will shape the future of energy safety here in Victoria, and it certainly builds upon other energy bills that have been passed here in this House, as the member for Laverton alluded to, and I thank her for doing that. Of course, at the election last year, we committed to a comprehensive review of energy safety and for the long term, but these proposed reforms are a good first step in that, and representing a range of quick wins. The bill also ensures safety for workers and communities, and we continue with our journey and transition to renewable energy future. And in regard to the safety of workers, I will come to an example a bit later in my contributions. Hopefully I can get to it, but it does date back over 100 years, but it just goes to show the work that's had to be done over many, many decades in regard to worker safety. We've helped nearly 250,000 Victorian households install solar panels on their roofs and reducing bills and giving them control over their energy. We've installed the Victorian Big Battery, and it's a great achievement, and it's the largest one in the Southern Hemisphere. And through these actions, we've reduced greenhouse gas emissions by more than any other state in Australia since 2014. And we've comfortably surpassed our 2020 renewable energy target of 20%, and we increased our 2030 renewable energy target from 50% to 65%, and we've set a 2035 target of 95%. Of course, we've brought forward our net zero emissions target from 2050 to 2044, which will require the transmission of our entire energy system, and we can see the great work that's being done there, including transport and industry, but our energy safety legislation hasn't kept pace with that. And again, we've seen the take-up of EV cars and things like that, and the change in the attitude of our society. Of course, this creates many more jobs within our communities. It creates cheaper energy and cleaner air, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. We are the leading one of the fastest energy transitions in the world, and as we embrace renewable energy, it's imperative that we prioritise the safety of our communities and our workers. Because the bill aims to amend the Electricity Safety Act 1998, the Gas Safety Act 1997, and the Pipelines Act 2005, with the primary goal of strengthening our energy safety compliance framework. And of course, through this, we're addressing the energy safety legislation framework to improve community safety and regulation of new and emerging safety risks, particularly as it relates to emerging technologies like the solar farms, like the batteries and the wind farms. And we see many, many wind farms, in particular out in my area, out in the west, popping up everywhere. And of course, they're a great thing, and they're quite a majestic thing to look at as you're driving along the highway, even though some people do complain about them. One significant aspect of the legislation is the introduction of obligations for certain electricity installations, ensuring that they pay levies to Energy Safe Victoria and implement enhanced safety measures. Of course, their obligations like those are comparable to already imposed on major distribution and transmission companies. We're increasing the civil penalties up to sixfold to better reflect the potential consequences of safety failures, such as the devastating St Patrick's Day fires around Terang and Garvock, and I know that's been alluded to by previous speakers. And that fire, which caused high voltage power lines clashing, resulting in a big investigation that showed negligence and deliberate safety protocols being ignored. So, Deputy Speaker, these fires were devastating for a lot of people and their livelihoods, and of course, there was a great penalty that came out of the investigation, and I'll allude to that a bit later. ESV plays a pivotal role in ensuring that safety of our energy landscape, and it is Victoria's energy safety regulator. It develops and maintains a robust energy safety framework for our state. Of course, traditionally, the focus was major electricity, gas, pipeline companies. We're seeing that landscape change dramatically and rapidly. And ESV ensures that those organisations and corporations that fall within their scope and regulatory jurisdiction conduct their business safely, and that's what we need to do. And we need a regulator that will actually regulate rather than just go by name. They'll manage their assets responsibly, of course, these companies, and minimise the risk to the public and property to the best of their abilities and extent of their reach. Of course, one crucial responsibility that ESV has got is to licence electrical workers, and of course to ensure the competence and knowledge of these workers. And they've recently introduced a CPD program that equips all electrical workers with up-to-date knowledge of new legislation, the standards, technologies, which will be integral as our energy system continues to expand and develop and change over years to come. So a tenacious effort to educate the community about energy safety, holding duty holders accountable. ESV has achieved some pretty good results in that area. And this year we've witnessed a significant reduction in serious injury related to energy incidents and a notable decrease in ground fires from energy assets. And that's exactly what we want. And in particular, if we're going into such a dangerous fire period this year, probably with what we've seen in the Northern Hemisphere, that heat's got to go somewhere, and it could be quite frightening that it might come this way. And of course there's a lot of undergrowth out there at the moment, and it won't take long to dry up, so we've got to be very cautious about what happens going into this summer season. So, Deputy Speaker, it is important to say to the House that ESV will continue to play a vital role in ensuring the safety of our energy landscape. This is especially crucial when we embark on achieving our ambitious renewable energy and climate targets. And with their diligence and dedication, we can confidently pursue our renewable energy goals while keeping all Victorians safe. And we acknowledge and appreciate the efforts of ESV and want to make special mention of the commitment to safety, to their education and the accountability that has made a significant positive impact on our energy sector. So the legislation, while it does empower ESV for stronger investigation powers, it enables them to seize items from a longer duration to conduct more thorough investigations into faulty or dangerous products. And it rectifies any loopholes in the current framework. And we'll keep building upon the strength of what this legislation provides for. This bill represents a fundamental step in safeguarding our communities and our workers as we navigate this technology transformation. And it's a dedication to us delivering cleaner air and more jobs, cheaper energy. But of course, none of this can be done without prioritising the safety of communities and of workers, and that should be at the forefront of all of this development and evolution into the energy industry. So as a result of the accelerated rate of rollout of new and emerging technologies, the appetite of the public to embrace these changes, the rapid adoption of new technologies, the exponential growth, these technologies, so updating this legislation is absolutely necessary. And I know with very little time left on the clock, I'm not going to get to my story about worker safety because it was quite an interesting story dating back to the First World War, where young women were brought into, they were called the radium girls, and they were poisoned by radium by painting the faces of watches for the soldiers. And these young women were contaminated with this radium. I think 11 of them died and they were younger, they were in their 20s, and we don't want to see that continue, but I do commend this bill to the House.
The